All right, before we start, we're going to give away a new Mercedes GLK 250. So if this is section A, B, C, D. If you're in section A, row 3, oh, nothing. Nobody went. All right, sorry. All right, it's so interesting. I started the CMO Club, I don't know, 7 years ago, and luckiest guy in the world, get to spend a lot of time with hundreds of CMOs. And what's interesting is what we talk about behind closed doors many times is different than what press, industry talks about, or at the, or that level of priority. So we've got 3 amazing CMOs today to really kind of get behind. I'm going to ask them a lot of really tough questions. And let's have a little fun finding out kind of what's on their minds when it comes to what's hot and what's not. Sound good? All right, before we start, one other quick thing. We're going to have a contest. Whichever one of you 3 has the best answers, I'm going to give you a bottle of booze at the end of the night. This is all I could find, Bailey. Sorry, but so whoever. So like a little incentive here.
I thought you had booze in there. You get your booze at Ace Hardware?
Ace Hardware booze.
That's good, brother.
What is it? You got to buy a lot of lumber to get booze? All right.
Okay.
All right, let's get started. Stephanie, why don't we start here? Let me move away from you a little bit. Why don't we just start by just sharing a little bit about your background, how you ended up at Time Warner Cable, kind of what you're doing.
Okay, great. Hi. So I'm mostly telecom. My background is AT&T, Lucent, Avaya, and then got swooped up into an early stage startup company that didn't completely start up, and then went into the cable industry in 2009. And in 2009, I joined Cablevision. Had a great time there, learned a lot about the industry, and to be quite frank, being a kind of voice expert in a primarily data world was a really good thing. And so we launched some amazing programs, and I was head of marketing there for business. And then just in 2012, moved over to Time Warner Cable, where I run the B2B side. And we're about a $3 billion business and have over 650,000 companies that depend on us. And we also have a cloud computing part of our business that we bought 4 years ago, Navisite. So anybody from the Boston area would probably be familiar. They're in Andover. We have 10 data centers, and we launched the 10th yesterday in Santa Clara. So it was a really fun event, and that's where we do all our cloud computing, hosting solutions. We'll do application management. We'll take on PeopleSoft, whatever, and take care of it for our customers. So this sort of convergence, finally, of really cloud and network is happening, and I think we're in a great position, and we're really enjoying, kind of helping customers in that regard. So
great. So what kind of party did you throw when you launched a data center?
Oh, it was
fabulous. Like Kanye West and stuff like that? Or what kind of party?
Yeah, the mayor of Santa Clara was there.
Very nice.
Very delightful man, and a lot of the chamber. We had customers and our partners there, VMware, some other good partners of ours. And we also had giant scissors. So has anybody done a ribbon cutting? I mean, they really do. We had engraved scissors that were this big, and the mayor was kind of having some challenges with that. But it was fun.
He's watching right now live stream. So
Sorry.
good job. Good, thanks.
He was a great guy.
Chris, tell us about your background a little bit.
Hi, guys. I'm Chris Bruzzo. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Electronic Arts. I've been at EA for about 6 months. Prior to that, I was at Starbucks Coffee Company in Seattle for about 8 years. I came to Starbucks to launch digital strategy at that company. I left Amazon.com in 2006, came to Starbucks, and kind of created the first digital team at Starbucks, and then later on moved into developing out the first marketing team at Starbucks, and then ultimately acting as CMO and running the smaller businesses inside Starbucks. So our juice business and tea business and a couple of other brands inside Starbucks. But I've always been a marketer, and had a great opportunity to work on things like a Kindle at Amazon before it was launched, and to be a part of Starbucks during its pretty radical transformation, going through the recession and recovering from a really difficult phase for that company. And I was in the very center of all of that cool stuff that was going on, and it changed me. And as a result, when the opportunity to come to EA, which is also a company undergoing a major transformation for itself, but in an industry that's also exploding, and for a function in terms of what we all do that's massively splintering, that just sounded like so much chaos that I had to get in on it. and it's been a ton of fun. And I would say, you want to talk about priorities, or are we going to come back around on that?
All right. Please follow my question.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to get the Baileys.
Okay, you're now in third place.
The
in
ace.
Bailey. Just never challenge the
ace hardware
moderator.
Baileys.
Never.
Yeah, I'm actually not trying to win that.
Well, then you're right on course.
Yeah,
Don't worry,
you're right on
the
course.
I already
But a few quick questions. What has surprised you? Because you've only been there 6 months.
Yeah.
What is like one of the biggest surprises about the industry?
Yeah.
That surprised you?
Well, I've been a lifelong gamer, so for me, it's just been so very cool to get inside a company that's packed with thousands of storytellers who make entertainment. That is a ton of fun, and we get to make games like Madden NFL and FIFA and Dragon Age Inquisition and The Sims. Those are all games that have launched in the last 6 months or had their launches in the last 6 months, which is incredible.
Right.
We go to the Super Bowl and we have a Madden Bowl party, which is a ton of fun, and we get Colin Kaepernick, which we can't really compete with the mayor of Santa Clara, but I think we have. It's been a ton of fun to be inside this entertainment company, and yet it's also a technology company. So these are really interesting people who make the games, and then we've got all these amazing marketers who love to be in that space. And it's a company that actually has a long legacy of making great games, and so it's fun to be in a place that's got deep culture, but is going through a massive transformation. Right. I would say the people have been really the most surprising to me, because at Amazon it was very wasn't really people oriented in terms of a place to work, and Starbucks is super up with people. It's all about the people, and so I was a little worried that coming into a technology company that we'd all be angry at each other all the time. No, we're not. These are really good, committed people who are happy and excited to be delivering these cool experiences for people. So I've really enjoyed getting to know people at EA.
All right, now you're in second place.
All right.
But Kieran hasn't gone yet, so Kieran, share this.
Yes, hello everybody. My name's Kieran Hannon. I'm the CMO for Belkin International. We've 3 brands in the Belkin portfolio. The one that you probably know best is the Belkin brand. And accessories, we don't make the devices, but we make your devices better. Then we acquired Linksys 2 years ago from Cisco, so a big networking business, both B2B and B2C. And then in this rapidly growing, evolving smart home space called the Internet of Things, we have a leading brand there called Wemo. So I've got 3 brand portfolio, different market conditions, different stages, different challenges, different competitive sets. So it's constant change. And listening to Chris talk about chaos, I'm beginning to think the C in CMO stands for Chaos Marketing Officer, right? It really is. Because a lot of marketing really is about, you've got your strategy set, but a lot of it's opportunistic and being able to take advantage of things when they do arise. So you're constantly in the throes of what's going on, what's changing, what's not. So for me, it's very exciting to be here talking to you, because data is, of course, very, very important, but you've got to get the head up and understand what's happening from a macro level as well. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of my thoughts about that today.
Oh, excellent. What products are doing surprisingly well from you? Or just
for us in our portfolio?
What types of things, to get them a little more sense of types of products.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, within the Belkin family alone, when I joined, we had 4,600 SKUs. So you can imagine we made every possible type of connector, charger, case, keyboard, power protector, surge protector, you name it, we had it all. So really it's been kind of rationalizing down. We've about 2,200 SKUs today, but they are the best in the marketplace. For instance, our armbands you use when you're out working out, we actually have 70% market share in the world of armbands.
How much?
70%. We're the leading brand in this space. You go into the Apple ecosystem, the Lightning connectors, the Lightning chargers, we're the #1 brand in the world for Apple in that space. So we're either number 1 or number 2 in each of the categories that we're in. So on Belkin, that's the Belkin. On Linksys was an acquisition 2 years ago from Cisco. Linksys, at the time when Cisco purchased them about 9 years ago, they had 75% market share in the US for networking. And since then, there's a lot more competitions come into the marketplace. So we've really invested in the brand. And for some of you, you probably remember the WRT 54G router. It was used in South Park to symbolize the internet, getting on the internet, this 54G iconic router. So the very first product we brought back after the acquisition was a WRT, and it's doing extremely well. It's the fastest networking router out there in the marketplace. So, and then in the Internet Things space, you guys are probably very familiar with Nest, with the thermostat. We're actually first to market 2.5 years ago with a smart switch, a smart plug into the wall. You can plug anything into a table lamp. For instance, there's a guy in the office, he's an English guy. He supports a questionable soccer team. But that being said, he has a table lamp plugged in, and it's set up through rules, recipes with if this, then that. And it goes out and understands if his team scores a goal, the table lamp blinks. He doesn't actually have to be watching the game. So that's kind of a little obscure way of using it. But again, so we have a full range of products there. So we have devices for the Internet of Things. We have a platform. We're the on-ramp for brands like Jordan, Mr. Coffee. So in the morning, you don't have to get up out of bed to make your coffee. You can just do it straight from your smartphone or connect it with the timer in your smartphone. So again, it's all about letting you live in the moment and use technology to allow that to happen, rather than technology disconnect you from living in the moment.
Very cool. Okay, that was well over 2 minutes, but thank you.
All right.
So let's do 2 minutes
By
or
the
less.
way, and I'd like to...
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's got to leave. Round of applause for Kieran. No, Chris, let's start, since you were very anxious to talk about your priorities.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just...
I have to remember what they are. Hold on.
No, just before we get into the day thing, and we'll get there, I promise we'll get there. But just really, just like 2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
You know, what are your priorities this year?
Yeah. 3 priorities, because that's what you told me to do, 3. Drive player insights everywhere. An ongoing, accelerating shift away from transactional relationships with our players and into live services, ongoing relationships with our players. And fundamentally rethinking every single stage of the player journey. From the way players find out about our games, to the way they play them, to the way they move from game to game. Those are our priorities.
Cool. Stephanie, top 3 priorities.
We have a saying in our group for marketing that we are determined to collect and keep customers. So that's our mission, sort of collecting and keeping customers. And my priorities really haven't changed. We want to be relevant. We want to be consistent, which is a big thing right now, and genuine, and present. And those are the things that we're very focused on in everything that we do in marketing. And I think we've talked before, we formed a very outside-in approach a little over a year ago. So it was October of last year. We reorganized our entire business unit, starting with marketing first, but really starting with the customer first and the prospects first. And what did we want to stand for, deliver, and so on, and then mapped out the entire, all the touch points for the customer, and then ingested that into our business. So it's a interesting process to go through, but it absolutely pays off completely because you get what you're trying to accomplish, and it makes being present because you know where you need to be, and consistent, you know what you want to say when you get there, and relevant, making sure that you're not wasting any business's time because, as many of you know, in cable especially, that it's a pyramid, right? Well, for the industry in general, but the base is very much smaller businesses. Nobody has time to waste.
Right. Cool. Sure. Top priorities.
So top priorities, again, if you think the 3 brand scenario, Wemo, it's a new brand in a new category, very different challenges, right? And so for me, I'm actually, by the way, I was the first CMO of the company ever, never had a CMO. Very, very good with channel marketing. The founder of the company started the company 32 years ago in a garage. Great guy, very inspiring, very visionary. But they were very much a channel company. They built the company through their channel partners. So I was brought on board to help really structure an organization to help bring them to the next level. So I've been there 2 years. Year 1 was building out the organization, the global organization across the 3 brands. Year 2 now is bringing more structure to that so that we've got disparate systems. For instance, in the digital asset management area, something that's kind of mundane. We've got probably 15 different systems globally. How do you connect that, make sure everyone's using the relevant assets? Marketing resource management, MRM, that's a big focus for us this year. So systems across the brands is it's a number 1 priority. The other thing we do from a data standpoint that's critical is the Net Promoter Score. That's what we measure everything on, Net Promoter Score. So really quantifying the impact of Net Promoter Score through the different stages of the journey that Chris just talked about, from the engagement to purchase to post-purchase and to exploring other products that make sense within that ecosystem for that user. That's a lot of the activity that we're doing. So personalized marketing is another big focus for me this year.
Good. Before we get into technology, just a suggestion for the group here. Those in the audience here that want to build relationships with CMO and engage, either personally with their products, you heard what they talked about, right? The types of things, those are the types of conversations they want to have. So just a little tip. It's not about feature function. It's not about this. It's about help me understand the journey. Help me understand that stuff, just for whatever that's worth. All right. So open, either of you three. What, from a technology perspective, as it relates to marketing, what are you excited about for this year? Whoever wants to start.
Well, I was just talking to Arne Hoffman about what's happening right now, and I said, how many companies do we have in this whole space, that are represented here, trying to help brands connect with people? And I think he said something 2,500, something like that. And I said, oh, good. So we're going to see a massive bloodletting now, right? There's going to be a ton of consolidation. And he said, no, I don't think so. That even the biggest companies in this space are not growing as fast as the space in total is growing. So it's really hard to say, with that many different solutions providers, like the number of folks who contacted me in the days leading up to this to say, I've got a part of the solution for you is unbelievable. So honestly, the answer is for me to have really smart people, like there's 3 of them right there. Stand up EA guys, there's my EA people. These are the superstars, actually. If you want to meet people
Round of applause
at
EA,
EA, that's Chris Gregory and Yap and got Julie and Alex. Like, those are the people to talk to because they are on the front lines every day, figuring out how we actually get all the stuff of connecting with players to melt away. Right? So that we can be connecting to people, telling stories, getting them excited, surprising them, in interesting ways. So, those guys will tell me they've got some great tools. Nanigans is a tool that they use routinely that helps them to focus less on the stuff that doesn't matter and more on the stuff that matters. Things that help to automate all of those perfunctory exchanges. Again, there are trillions of real-time RTB exchanges going on right now at a pace that's every single day at a pace that far exceeds what even like the New York Stock Exchange is transacting. It's unbelievable. There's no way any human here could possibly manage any of that. So it's great to have tools that are just constantly making that connection with people better and better and better. But I would also say, like, marketing as a function, I think, it's like it's on the rack and it's being pulled apart. Literally, like the arms are coming out of the sockets. That's how it's being just pulled apart because it's hard to say right now what is marketing anymore, right? And so I've got people who are storytellers, who are targeters, who are channel experts, who are engineers, incredibly analytic. All of these functions, and they happen to come from professions like PR people, or communicators, or writers, or designers, or analysts, or engineers, product managers. But in reality, they're all munging and fuzzying the space between them. And so the key is for us to continuously find like the next great set of tools. So on the storytelling side, we use Spreadfast, which is a way to automate and measure what we're doing in social media. I love all these tools. I've watched them kind of evolve and
how do you guys decide what you chase? Because with that 2,500 and all these different categories stuff, how do you determine, or is it just kind of have different people looking at stuff and something says, oh, this is kind of cool, or is that we're now going to focus for the next 3 months on X? How do you
Sure, great one. By the way, shout out to you. That's pretty cool to be able to say, hey, don't bug him, bug those 3. I love that. Very nice, very nice. I'm on my own, so go easy, please. So it's a very good one. It's very interesting. What happens is, in our world, is people get excited about technology, they learn about something, they come running saying, we need to do this, right? And then you go, okay, well, what business problem are we solving? What marketing problem are we solving? And then what IT resources are needed to do this? So you start to go through and try to understand. So I think we get very enamored with the bright, shiny object syndrome. And I think it's really, really important to help people understand how this directly impacts business, how it impacts the marketing strategy, and what other resources are required, and what's the long-term viability of this approach vis-a-vis other opportunities, other platforms, and so forth. So for me, we spend a lot more time saying no than yes for that very reason. I also run customer care globally. It's really neat because the voice of customer is centered in the marketing organization. So this one voice of truth throughout everything is what we're trying to do. So no one ever asks me, what are your top goals? They come in, here's how we can help you. And I will say to anyone here, our number one objective is to understand that voice of customer through all the touch points in a consistent, defined manner so we can impact it appropriately. And so if you can come back and help me with that story and help integrate it with our other platform providers, it's a winner.
Right. Stephanie, how about you?
Yeah, we've been not struggling with, but I think there's a kind of a misnomer around science and art of marketing and where this is all taking. And I think you called it like a mungie?
Yeah, munging together.
Yeah. Things are munging or mashing or whatever. And you just have to be really careful. And I ask my people, I think back years ago, marketers were asked to sort of justify their budget. And so there was a lot of measurement going on. And so all these tools came out to help you say, wait, I'm responsible for X amount of revenue, whatever. We are absolutely linked in our regard to sales. And we don't do anything that's not linked from the sales perspective. We are also linked from goals from the top down, one of which, huge one, is productivity. And productivity of our salespeople, productivity of care. And so productivity is a big piece for us. So we end up developing a lot of tools to shorten the sales cycle, make things more relevant, and our messaging more consistent, that kind of thing. But I think there's been an era where we've sort of gone from now just having to justify our budget to we really want to know because we may do things differently. And so I asked my team, that's really awesome. What will we do differently or better because of it? And what decisions will we make because of that? And that seems to be a pretty good, and making sure obviously there's no consequences or unintended consequences from doing it.
So do you guys, when you think of data and data analytics and all that good stuff, or just pulling data together, are you spending more time, and you have to have an answer to this, you can't say it depends, okay?
Yeah.
You can't, or you'll lose the booze.
Okay.
But are you spending more time yet leveraging it to have better relationship with your current customers? Are you spending more time to look for new segments and new revenue streams, not upsell, but additional things? I'm just curious.
It's an
Yes.
and. It's an and, yeah.
Yes. Yes, we
Yes.
are.
All of the
Yes.
above.
Both.
Yes.
That's not what I was hoping for. Can let me rephrase.
For EA in particular, because of our total portfolio, we reach a lot of people. So like job 1, 2, 3, and 4 is to stop having to waste resources to keep reacquiring the same people over and over again. So in fact, again, those guys there, that's what they spend most of their time doing is how do we reduce that amount of reacquisition so that we can actually spend more per person to bring new people in.
Right.
That's the whole game.
Right. Karen, what about you?
We use data in a number of different ways, but I think the most fundamental thing is enhancing the user experience. As you guys know, software is eating the world. So for me, I spend on that side of things like 90% of our activity around Linksys and Wemo. Software, most of the investment we make is on the software side, a lot on the hardware, but most of the experience comes with software. We have about 32 people in our UX team internally. So we're vertically integrated. So it's really about how do you expose a new experience to someone if they're using Wemo and they're using it to turn on their kettle in the morning, okay? What are the things that we can introduce into their experience throughout the day that helps them understand all the great things that they can be doing? And this is served to them within the app environment itself, right? So that's all about discovery. And so it's really about mapping user experience and how that comes to life and in a meaningful way. So that's how we're using data predominantly. We're also using data with our channel partners to help educate them on the things that they need to be doing in order to support this brand. Historically, we've been very much at the behest of them, and we've got a lot of valid learning that we're now sharing with them and helping them understand how they should be merchandising, how they should be training, how they should be handling the online experience for our brands. So it's all of the above, but in different ways.
Yeah,
Steph, yeah.
we were talking earlier about the partnering
Yeah.
aspect of this, and the data has helped us not only identify, where our customers' prospects are, and that's kind of the basics. When you start drilling down, the receptivity to a product or the way it's sold is different, right, by channel, go-to-market strategy. And we've done an okay job. I think it's kind of been like as a pack, as an industry from my perspective, we've done an okay job. But I think understanding more about how the customer buys and the data associated with that, what they have, where they are, and all the particulars has allowed us to really get the right person in front of them or the right channel in front of them. And we did it kind of, but it wasn't well informed. Let's put it that way.
So how are you guys from an organization perspective, right? You look at, from a functional aspect around demand gen, branding, campaign, and you go down the list, kind of the organization model of 5 years ago or whatever. How has that changed? Do you have people, or everyone in your organization need to have that data analytic, their skills, or do you just have like the super group of 3 or 4 that follow you around wherever you go, for example? No, I'm kidding. But that are supporting all the other groups. Just curious. Anybody?
We redid, I think I mentioned earlier, we redid our organizational structure. We were going for a world-class marketing, outside-in approach, and we developed a segment approach. So we have a head of the small business segment, a head of the mid-size and channels, because kind of the medium and channels go together, or indirect channels, and a head of enterprise and Navisite, who is in the audience, Chalva Chakotwa.
Posse's in the house.
So if you have any enterprise questions. But we did that, and then we have a group, customer experience and knowledge, that is really where all this, customer touch points, all the good data and analytics sit, competitive information, all of that, and research. And then, of course, our brand piece sits there. And then I have mass and digital as one group. And it is, the most brilliant thing. It sounds simple once you execute on it and you start understanding, because we're obviously big in TV, we're big in a lot of different channels. Once you start understanding what impacts each channel has and the tactics, and if I pull this lever, that I get this result, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And we've seen, back, years ago, you'd say, oh, gee, if I send a direct mail and then I follow up with email, I'll get a 15% lift, something simple like that. This is on a totally different scale when you start really looking at the impact of online and offline together. And I have a brilliant guy in LA that's in charge of all that for the country. So.
Did you hire new people in the last few years, or did you train current employees?
We had some turnover because of just the needs. We were in a different place, right? As the business grows, sometimes it just doesn't always, work out that the same people can do that job.
Right. Chris, what about you?
Well, we have a dedicated analytics team that reports to me, and they're responsible for player analytics in the company, which is great, and that allows us to really bring the voice of the player in. But also, almost every single one of my teams has experts on it who have to be able to do the serious analytical work to drive their function. So that's certainly in the product marketing teams that use player analytics to help the studios build games. It's also in the consumer marketing team in terms of their ability to find the right audiences and target them correctly. And so there is so much data. In fact, all who help us are generating tons of new opportunities for us to use data. Probably where we're frustrated is that we don't get to have it the way we want it and keep it the way we want it.
Right.
But there's so much opportunity there that we have to have people who are trained in the sciences. So I definitely have a dedicated team of data scientists who work to make sense of it all. And in part for EA, that's because we also have a ton of data that we have access to inside the games. So there are telemetry hooks in every single one of our games that are just spewing out information about what causes a player to drop off or quit that day or not come back the next day. So it's not for a lack of data. It's really the challenge becomes, where do we poke in first to turn that into stuff that we can really do something with to improve engagement, player
The
engagement.
significance of data. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for instance, for us, we had a very interesting thing where for Amazon, we were spending a lot of money. Amazon really is a media play, and Chris knows this very well. And some of our other customers were somewhat upset to see the amount of effort and activity we had in Amazon. And for you guys right now, there are 2/3 of all searches in the CE space are now initiated in Amazon, not Google. So Amazon is so important for that reason, from the quality content you have on there, from the quality reviews you have on there. And we were able to demonstrate some of these other retail partners that were very sensitive to our efforts with Amazon that were actually, it was a rising tide. It was impacting their business positively as well. So again, that was a lot of the data analytics that we're doing to demonstrate that. So again, the significance is so critical. And we have analytics in so many different parts of the company, to your point. We've got it in marketing, we've got it in the business units, and of course we have it in we've got a pretty advanced lab up in Seattle where all the Wemo software is done. We've got data scientists and machine learning and so forth. So it's really stitching this together. That's the next stage of all this. And we'll do it by brand, but it's not for the lack of data, it's for the significance of what that data means in our daily lives.
I didn't know that about CE. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I remember
60% of all searches are now starting on Amazon.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember I was there in 2006, and Bezos famously says that the Amazon strategy is selection, price, and convenience. Just never gets off that topic. And one of the things I was responsible for were the all hands, and I would say, hey, Jeff, the employees want an update on the strategy, on the Amazon strategy. He would go, fine, that's fine. And then he would put up the napkin again. And every single quarter he would say, this is our strategy, it's not changing. And I remember as I was, my last year there, I said to him, Jeff, this strategy is going to have to change because selection, you're going to lose it. The internet's going to take over selection. You're not going to be able to have the indomitable selection. And I said, and price, nobody wants to really love a brand based on being the lowest price. So we got to go after trust, Jeff. Come on, we have to go after trust. We got to build this into a love brand around trust. And he looked at me and he was like, nah. And he just continued to do selection, price, and convenience. And to their credit, in some ways, they get it. They have dominated, still to this day, in selection. It's amazing.
Yeah. So when we do product launches, very, very important, we line it up in the day of launch, but you back into that, we have all the reviewers done, Vine, everything, product seeded with influencers, product seeded with other reviewers. So the day of launch, all of this gets unveiled and it gets us pushed up, not only within Amazon, but then all the Google ranking page and everything. It's a complete orchestration. It's amazing how this has changed.
All right, so we're down to 5 minutes, and I have about a 5-minute ending that I want to give. So no, I'm kidding. So you have a choice of 2 questions to answer, okay? First question is, what final advice would you give this room as you think about this whole issue of data-driven marketing, data-driven decision-making? In fact, let's just go with that. You don't get a choice. What would be a final piece of advice?
People are at the end of it all. At some point, there's a person. I remember we were doing our giant market opportunity, and we reconstructed basically our entire architecture from the bottom up on how we track companies and all that, and report out on it, right? I mean, it's important information because we report out on it. And at the end of the day, our analytics guys say, yeah, but these are businesses with addresses with people. And, everyone in the room went, oh, yeah. And we sort of forgot that. It's probably a little bit easier in a consumer world sometimes because you're not, we're dealing with companies, and so it becomes maybe a little less personal, I don't know. But it was a real eye-opener, I think, for us to make sure that whatever we do collectively, and the intelligence that we gather, that at the end of the day, there's a human being on the other side of that making a choice.
Really good point. Chris, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I think, well, for everybody here, besides what the companies you represent, you also represent yourself and what you're doing. And I would echo, go to where the people are, get as close to the people as you can, and do things that are meaningful, and get to a place where you can have a lot of impact and you can feel like your hands are, on the wheel of making a difference in people's lives. And So for me, that's all about, bureaucracy's got to be evil. We got to pull that out of the way so that we can and automate more and more things that just get in the way and make things transactional. That's really important. Yeah. But I would say for marketers in general, I would pull on the story of the fearless princess on an epic journey, which is, Frozen. Has anybody seen Frozen?
Are you going to sing?
I could, but let it go. And I think that is.
Let it go, let it
exactly.
go. I haven't even seen it.
Well, no, the lyric in that song says, you can't hold it back anymore. It's time to see what we can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. We're free.
Can we all join hands?
I think that's
Nice.
the era that we're in. I think that's the awesome era that we're in, is it's time to let all that prior stuff go.
Right.
All that stuff where there was, in fact, where you see rules, that's probably especially where you should dig in and say, let's get rid of that. And it should be about passionately getting closer and closer to the customer.
Excellent.
So besides Chris wanting to work for Disney,
I get to work with
let's
Disney.
see. It's very interesting. I think there's something, a number of people in the room represent companies that talk about the importance of buyer personas. And I've never heard someone talk to me about, we've done a customer persona for us, as in selling to who the ideal customer is for your solution. I've never seen that. So I encourage you to, quote unquote, eat your own dog food and use it wisely. I think that's real important. And again, there's scenarios where you will succeed, where you think you're right. I think there's also scenarios where your solution may not be right for that customer, and just say, we're not right for you. But I think that honesty is so, so important. You wouldn't believe the amount of times I keep getting hit up by the same group over and over again, trying to attack it from a different way, and I keep saying, but this is the fundamental root. You just won't give up because it's like a dog with a bone. So again, let it go, move on, and understand who really makes most sense for your solution. The other thing I would say is, as a marketer, I'm about focus and really distilling. At Belkin, we go through a lot of complexity to get simplicity. I know that might sound trite, but we really, really do. And we've won a lot of awards for our products for that. I encourage you to do the same. I think that as we look at solutions, everyone's doing discrete, small little parts of it. And that means we may need 6, 7 people kind of looking at it in totality. That's not scalable. So again, I encourage you, maybe this mashup needs to start happening, putting together best in class so it becomes digestible, because right now it's not digestible. And so I'm just, that's how I see it.
Good. Well, I want to thank you three very much. They've been doing voting. I've been checking my cell the whole time when you guys were talking, and it's a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
So we're gonna.
That's-
I'm
so you're
sorry,
gonna
no,
keep
I'm
it?
sorry, no.
You're gonna
It's a
keep it?
4-way tie. They said the monitor was amazing, so he gets some too. So, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. So I want to thank Stephanie, Chris, and Kieran for being here tonight. Thanks, guys.